One of the most important things that I have learned is to accept the world as it is and accept myself as it is. And I've been a lot more open with this over the years. And it's really helped me deal with a lot of things that in my head I think is like, why, why? Right? And it helps me sort of emotionally deal with things if you just simply come to the terms with, that the world is not nice, right? Like my default, and thank God I had good parents that I often think about that. It's like my default is to presume that people are nice. But here's the irony with this. I want you to stick with me is that perhaps part of the reason why I feel that is because my grandpa went off to a war and his left his kids to be fending for themselves. Um, and I think that's really profound that the reason why my parents fought so hard to protect me and my family was because the world was so crappy at some point in the world. Like, you know, people don't understand just how crappy the world actually was in the 1940s. If you start looking at the numbers, right, like it's staggering the number of people that died. Staggering the number of people that were literally just people just killed each other. Like just literally walked up to them and killed them, and that was a normal thing in my home country. So my dad fled from Poland, or his family fled from Poland. He was born in Canada, but his siblings were not. 90% of the Jews were killed in that country. 90%. And I think about that as like that was normal. And it wasn't just one nationality that had that feeling. It was the whole world had a feeling. That's why it happened, right? It wasn't just one group that was being awful. It was the whole world that was feeling. And this is just a little while ago. And I think about this as like, for me to grow up in a world where I felt safe. Um, I had somebody to talk to that was really protected. And then I come into the real world right after that. And I think it's the great irony is the real world is not like that, right? There are people that are not so nice. And it's at all walks of life. It's all, you know, it's anybody. There are and people don't say it. It's more hidden at higher levels of society. Um, people just hide stuff when they're being nasty to other people, and it's more overt or more covert, more hidden. And we have to, if we don't acknowledge this, right? If we don't accept it as is and just say, well, this is part of what goes on, how are we ever to not only fix it? And that's not where I'm going to. I don't think you need to fix anything for anybody else because frankly, they just don't want to be fixed. But how are you going to fix it for yourself if you don't acknowledge it as it is? And, the reason why I'm thinking about this is when I started the whole Reciprocity Project, I got like a little message that said it's been 8 years. Um, I thought it would be really easy, right? I thought I would create the software, everybody would join, and people would love to help out other people. the great irony is I can't even get people to join onto the software of the people that I actually know. And so when that happened, I mean, it hit me pretty hard because here I am investing a whole bunch of money and time and, effort in building this thing, and people can't even log into it. They choose not to log into it, right? They physically choose not to log into it. They see me building this thing, and talk about it pretty endlessly. I tried. Now I've learned to just not say anything, but I do talk about it pretty endlessly. They see me all over the internet. And now it's millions and millions and millions of people have seen me, and yet they don't even log into it. Don't even try to log into it. So I need to accept the world as it is, right? For me to make progress. So it was with good intentions. I thought people would, they would love to help out themselves. The original proposition was like, get free editing on your work. And this was before ChatGPT and all this kind of stuff. And so I thought, well, this was gonna take off. And it didn't. And that's because I realized that, people are pretty self-interested, self-centered, whatever you want to call it. And they don't want to expend the time. Generally, they think that, I have realized that, yeah, people often think that they're too good to need help. And so they choose to never do it, choose to never log on, or they're too good. They think that they don't have time. That's an honest one that happens a lot. People think that they don't have time because, they're too busy on their own thing. When I hear that, I think like self-interested, self-centered. And that's the default that I often hear. And so I think in my head, okay, at the beginning it was like, man, why is it that why? Right? Like here I am I'm spending a great deal of money and time, like you have no idea, time and effort, and people don't want to join it. And I would like, I still take it personally. It still hurts, right? I'm not saying like none of this is easy, but I accept the world as it is. And I think, you know, people are not naturally nice. They are self-interested. This idea of altruism is baloney. This idea of reciprocity, that's what it's called. It's baloney. It makes nobody is going to do it at this point. It's stupid. Such a small group. So, and what can I do? I accept the world as it is, and then I pivot around that. I build my moat of my stability. I learn that I have to let go of a lot of things. I have to really accept the world and realize, yeah, it is going to take an awful lot of time. And my presumption that it would work overnight and people accept it, it's just not true, right? And it's the same thing as what goes on in culture. The culture is like some people think that there's a lot of tension. I guess that's the messaging that is sold to us, is that there's a lot of tension all of the time, and a lot of anger all of the time. But if you accept the world as it is, and you realize, like, wait a minute, this is, I mean, that might be true, but the world still keeps going around. There's people in far more dangerous places, far more awful places, still getting their life done. And the world goes around and everything continues to move. And if you look at long run trends, and that's why I brought up the story of my dad, my grandpa leaving. My grandpa had to leave his kids and went on a boat, and he was just a damn kid himself, um, in his teens. And he and goes away to a war that he didn't start, that that people didn't know what they were fighting for in the first place. They just knew that there was like another country taking over another country. They didn't know about all of the other stuff that was going on, the awfulness. They knew indirectly, but didn't know. Um, you know, all of that. I think about that a lot. It's like, wow, as much as what I think about today and the sort of the challenges that I face and in my self-centered, my own self-centered views, I think about that as like, man, we have come so far and the world is so much better off, yet we still have to accept the world as it is. We have to accept it as it is and not what we want it to be. And if we do that, we can make a lot more progress in ourselves and move forward and allow ourselves to be okay inside. And if we accept it as it is, and I'm not saying like tolerate it. That's not what I'm saying in the sense of like accept it as like I'm not gonna be upset and all that kind of stuff. But what I'm saying is look at the world, look at what normally happens and move forward from there. Adjust who you are and be solid inside relative to that world. And if people don't like it and they don't like you and all of those things, tough on them. That's them that has to process this, right? It has nothing to do with you. You are trying to live your life in a healthy, happy way. And as you continue to do that repeatedly, you become a better person inside, where you shed a lot over time of all of these expectations, and you become solid and yet more fragile. All right, take care and have a wonderful day.